Hello and welcome to episode 49 of The Best Games, period. I'm your host, Jack Gardner, and with me this week, after our little holiday breakage, is Daniel Jones and Jeremy Brown. How are you guys doing? It's been a while. We haven't chatted or I was gonna say like seen each other, but like we're recording over Skype without video, so we're not really seeing each other right now.
Well, I'm just resting up after my long trek through Europe. Stayed at a bunch of different hostels. Rode train from Germany. Can't think of a specific city right now. So I rode the train from Brussels to...
From Brussels, Germany?
Shut up. Anyway, that joke didn't really land the way I wanted it to.
Was it a joke?
Yeah, were you going to try to end that with bidet somehow? That's the only thing I can think that you were going.
Yeah, I used the bidet.
Yeah.
In Paris, because I was traveling around Europe. Paris is in France. I don't know if you guys knew that.
France is...
I'm learning a lot right now.
I'm fairly certain a part of Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still. I think it still is.
Yeah.
Last I checked.
Anyway, no. I had a very nice Christmas. How was yours? How was your holiday, both of you?
They existed.
Yeah, mine was pretty low-key. No Thor, though.
Thunderclap.
You know, my brother's dog's name is Thor.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he adorable?
Named after the Norse god, not the comic book.
Well,
Norse.
in the comic book, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I know it is, but he's not named after the comic book character, is all I'm saying.
But the comic book character is the mythology.
But so you're saying that your brother
Right.
doesn't care about the comic book character. He literally named him after...
That's exactly what I'm saying. They named it after... Because my sister-in-law is Norwegian, and that's why. Not because they're a fan of the Marvel comic.
I see.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm picking up what you're fraying down.
Jack, I have a bone to pick with you, though.
Yeah.
That was funny.
In your very informative...
I did say you're from Massachusetts and not Connecticut.
What?
Yeah, you said I was from Massachusetts.
Isn't that where the weed is legal now? You can only wish to be from Massachusetts.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I know. My mother-in-law is very, very distraught about all the weed that must be just floating around in her neighborhood now.
Is it causing mass hysteria? Is it causing reefer madness?
Reefer madness.
Oh my God.
Have you guys ever actually watched that?
I've tried. I can't watch the entire thing.
Yeah, it's pretty
too
terrible.
silly.
Yeah. That's shit they actually showed to kids in schools in like the 50s and 60s.
But like it's not even that bad. It just makes them dance.
I know, it's
Like it's not like I understand that back in the day, in some communities, dancing was seen as super scandalous. Like, that's why we have the movie Footloose.
Exactly.
Yeah, that documentary with Kevin Bacon.
But that was a real thing. Like, my dad grew up in a family where, like, dancing was considered, like, super not okay.
There was a Mysteries at the Museum episode where they had the shirt from the girl that inspired Footloose. And
wait, so not like the shirt from Footloose? The shirt from the person who inspired
Yeah,
Footloose?
the actual person that inspired the story. Yeah.
I didn't know it was based on a real story.
Yeah, totally.
So Kevin Bacon really did save a town.
No, yeah. Well, Kevin Bacon didn't. These three girls did. They petitioned the city council and whatnot because they thought that if they danced, they would all get pregnant and turn to drugs and alcohol. So they convinced them to let him try it one time. It took him like 2 years. Like, she was like a sophomore when this started, and by the time they actually approved it, she was a senior. Yeah, crazy stuff.
How? Wow. That is literally one of the craziest things.
And this is what, like 30 years ago, maybe? I don't know.
It's not like ancient history. If you
Guys,
dance,
no
you're going
wonder
to
I
get
said
pregnant.
that Brussels was from Germany, because Brussels, Like, Germany, there's towns named Hamburg and
Oh my gosh,
Frankfurt.
why are you going back to this?
So because Brussels
all the
happens to
food
be
in
a
that freaking
food?
region is just... All the cities are named after food. It's ridiculous.
Or maybe the food is named after the cities, Daniel.
Yeah,
I know,
I
I'm just
was going to say, I think you got that a little bit backwards, but
Bamberg. What is Bamberg? Jesus, I want to go to Europe so bad.
Anyway, enough about this footloose.
well, I'm glad you had a happy holiday, Daniel.
I completely interrupted you guys. I'm sorry.
Speaking of Europe, Jennifer is going to Ireland in June.
Oh, I'm
That's
jealous.
exciting.
I'm totally jealous. I'm
Very
actually a
jealous.
little bit pissy about it. Not that she's leaving, but why don't I
That
get
you
to
can't
go?
come. Yeah. Ireland
Next
and New
next
Zealand are my
time.
number
Next time
ones.
I get to come.
Yeah. Next time. Is there going to be a next time?
Yeah, right?
I don't know. I guess it depends
It's not
on
going to be a next
how it
time.
goes in Ireland.
Yeah, all right. So,
We're here to talk about our... This is our year-end wrap-up show that we didn't
well,
do
this is the
before
best
end
games period, right, Jack?
Well, yeah. We talk
Yeah.
about good games. If not the best games. And, not gonna lie, I forgot how we did this last year. So, this year, we each are coming to the show with the game we think is the best from 2016. And we're gonna discuss each of them. I think we might have also come with, like, runner-ups.
Last year we did 3, and we started with our third ones and went around. Then our second ones went around, and then our
Okay.
ones.
I mean, I could totally do 3 again this year. I don't know about the 2 of you, but...
Well, I don't want to... I think we should do the 2 like we discussed.
Yeah.
And if you want
Yeah.
to throw other mentions in there quickly, that's fine. But
For sure.
Yeah.
And, like, I think it's maybe fair to talk about some other little things, too, like, and I say little, but, like, 2016 was a big year for video games. Probably one of the biggest years in recent memory.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the launch of tons of high-profile games, and we also had the first commercial launch of VR.
3 different systems.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, no VR games are in my, like, top games of the year. Like, not even my top 10. But it's still a big deal that it's out. And
Do you have an Oculus?
I have a Vive.
Vive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is a very big deal that it's out. And, I mean...
don't we all have an Oculus? Isn't that like part of the eye?
That is true.
that's your Optimus Prime.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It's, it was discovered in Brussels, Germany.
Amazon
And-
Optimus Prime. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, think about, like, I'm not gonna, some of these games I'm not even gonna mention because they're not on my list, but, like, Overwatch and Inside and The Witness and friggin' Dark Souls 3 came out this year, and, like, not many people are talking about it at the end of the year. But that was a really great game.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you just
honestly-
said you literally just said you're not going to mention these games, and then you did. But then I also forgot the Dark Souls 3 came out this year. Wow.
So you mentioned a couple games in there that I have written down to talk about, actually.
Well, whatever, Jack. I can't speak
Well-
for you, I suppose.
Yeah, so Jack's
So-
all happy just because he can write and we can't. Good job, Jack.
Wait, you guys are illiterate? You never told me?
He has a degree.
Literate means you can't read. It doesn't
Jeremy.
mean you can't write.
What is the word for you can't write?
I don't know. I'm illiterate.
Illiterate.
Illiterate? I like that.
Yep.
But no, you mentioned The Witness, and 2016 was a great year for games, but also there were a lot of games that I was really looking forward to that didn't really live up to what I was hoping for them. And The Witness is one of those. Like, that's a game I've been looking forward to for years, since like 2011 when it was announced.
Yeah, we did a podcast about Braid right around the time The Witness came out because we were so excited about it.
Yeah, and it's a much more cerebral game. Just feels very cold and calculating and empty and, like, heartless. Like, it's a very, very smart game,
It's too damn hard.
You don't say.
but it's...
The guy that made Braid made a game that feels heartless.
I'm just saying, like...
Reference our Braid episode if you'd like to understand the smarminess of that comment.
But I was hoping for more, and it ended up being just a series of very obtuse puzzles.
Yeah.
The puzzles themselves were ingenious, but there wasn't the same kind of narrative or interesting thing to pull you through all that drudgery. Because it ended up being more work than fun.
Yeah, it was cool at the beginning, but then
Yeah.
the puzzles just got harder and harder without any reward for that.
Did you play The Witness too then?
I played it for a long time. I played it quite a
Really?
bit. I didn't finish it,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Man.
Yeah, I put a
have not
good
played it.
40, 50 hours into that thing. At
Oh my
least.
Dang.
god.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
Wow.
the way
You guys are making me glad I didn't play it.
Like
The way you
I
describe it.
refused to cheat. I wasn't going to go to YouTube and look up any of the answers or anything like that.
Yeah.
the way you described it is really apt. It's like diminishing returns. Because like it starts out and it's all mysterious and cool and visually interesting, and as you go forward, you don't get anything more than that, but it just gets harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
I wanted to like it way more than I actually ended up liking it. So,
Huh.
yeah, maybe
Well-
it'll be one I'll go back to in a couple years, and I'll find like something hidden in it that I didn't notice this time. But,
Yeah.
All right. While we're on the negative train, I'll put one out there. No Man's Sky.
Whoa!
I love that game actually, and I spent a whole lot of time with that game, and the good times I had with that game are really good, and unlike anything I've ever had with a game, and it actually would make my top 10 for the year.
I thought it
but
was going to be your
still
number one.
No, but I was still disappointed with what that game ended up being. It just wasn't what it could have been. Even with what was there, even with what they built into the game, it was not what it could have been.
I remember even in our we did a podcast, just you and I, about No Man's Sky.
Yep.
Even back then, you were still insisting that there was a giant sandworm in the game. Do you
who
still
knows?
think there is one?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Nope. I don't.
All right. You also mentioned Dark Souls 3, and that is actually my runner-up to what I consider the game of the year.
It's your honorable mention.
Oh, interesting.
Nice.
Yeah. Dark Souls 3, I've been meaning to write a review of it since I played it, and it's just kind of been constantly pushed back because I keep going back and forth on it. How I feel about it, what I think about it. But it's a really, really well-made game, like you would expect from a Dark Souls game. I honestly think that, we could do a really cool episode doing Dark Souls 2 versus Dark Souls 3. I think that would be interesting. Because each of the Dark Souls games has either subtle or big changes between them that radically affect everything.
Yeah.
Down to like how they're structured and like how combat works and all these little things that end up being pretty big, even if on the surface they kind of look the same. The interesting thing about Dark Souls 3 is that it's a really big hybrid between Bloodborne and Dark Souls.
Yeah.
If you play Dark Souls 2 and then jump into Dark Souls 3, you notice like the action is much more fluid in 3. It has that kind of energy that Bloodborne has, but it also is slowed down with the more stately pace of Dark Souls.
But you can play that game with like a no shield build and feel like you're actually getting somewhere.
Which Dark
And-
Souls?
Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can play that game like Bloodborne.
Well, you can
You-
play
you
it.
can-
Yeah.
Yeah. You can play it kind of like Bloodborne. It's not as forgiving as Bloodborne is, because in Bloodborne, if you get hit, you can hit your enemy back to get your life, restore some life.
Right.
Can't do that in Dark Souls 3, but
But if
the best defense
good enough.
the best defense in Dark Souls is not getting hit in the first place. So
right.
Yeah.
it's also much clearer about what different things do than in previous Dark Souls games, which is something I really, really appreciated. I thought the boss design was really interesting, and the story is much more explicit in 3.
Yeah, it is.
Which is, I really like a lot, because you can finally wrap your head around what's going on without really needing to dive into the item descriptions. And if you do dive into the item descriptions, there's a lot going on in Dark Souls 3. At least I found it more interesting than in previous titles, and maybe that's just me maturing as a Dark Souls player and getting the series more, but at the end of the day, I really, really enjoyed Dark Souls 3, and I'm super excited that there aren't going to be any more Dark Souls, supposedly. And with that, that's my honorable mention. I thought it was fantastic, and it's definitely a game from 2016 everyone should play at least once.
I can definitely agree with you on that, Jack.
Yeah, I totally forgot that came out this year. That's crazy. I'm totally going to play it when my girlfriend goes to Ireland for 6 weeks.
That's
do it.
a great time to do it. So my honorable mention would be one that you saw me play, and I played with you, Jeremy. We played co-op, I think. Salt and Sanctuary.
Yeah, we did.
Oh,
Yeah.
that game did come out this year. Oh my
did.
goodness.
Yeah, it's a great.
I thought that
Salt
came out
great
last year.
Came out
And
shortly
Sanctuary.
before Dark Souls 3, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, it came out like
You're right.
3 weeks before Dark Souls 3, so it was perfect timing for everybody who was salivating for Dark Souls. They had something to tide them over. And I think a lot of Dark Souls players really liked that game. And what I liked about it is that it just, for me personally, it fit my life a bit better than Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne even did. And I still want to go back and continue my New Game Plus playthrough. But you can get through that game in about 25 to 30 hours. It still feels incredibly satisfying. I don't know how it feels to finish a Dark Souls game. Probably not quite as satisfying as that, but it still feels really satisfying. I have an affinity for classic action-adventure games like Castlevania, and this felt like Castlevania, but made modern with some of the game design learnings from Dark Souls. You know, I do think that Dark Souls is one of the great milestones in game design in recent years. This game basically just takes the gameplay of Castlevania and mixes in some touches of the gameplay from Dark Souls and Bloodborne so well that you stop caring that it is such a blatant clone of Dark Souls. And the way I feel about it, like, I've heard people complain that Salt and Sanctuary is not original and shouldn't be commended for just blatantly ripping off Dark Souls, but really, what's the difference between what Salt and Sanctuary does and what Dark Souls 3 does? I mean, they both are just iterations on an established genre.
I don't know why people use, oh, it's just a clone of blank as like some sort of pejorative, because that's what art is. Oh,
Right.
You made a painting. Well, didn't you know that Leonardo DiCaprio painted the Mona Lisa? It's like, whatever.
That was a
like-
Titanic move on his part to do that.
Yeah, it was. Really steamed up the automobile. It's just, we all use old ideas all the time. It's not like we're all making new ideas or concepts. And so the only problem is when you quote-unquote clone something and you don't do it well. If you are doing it well enough to the point where you don't even care, like you said with Salt and Sanctuary, that's good. You made a good game. If you can get your audience over the fact that this is similar to something else they've experienced, that's good.
And it's 2D. I mean, it's a 2D side-scrolling version of that, which is not a thing that has really been done yet. And I think if you look at the indie space, there are a bunch of games that are going to be doing that and attempting it, and I'm excited for a lot of them. But this was the first one to do it, and the fact that they freaking did it so well is really impressive. It's a side-scrolling game, but the levels overlap on each other, and they loop together and twist together in ways that you would expect a Dark Souls level design to work. You have secret doors that you'll eventually come back to and build shortcuts for yourself, and you'll be able to get across the map a lot faster by the end of the game. And you get really familiar with where everything is by the end. And each area has its own distinct style and look, but they also all feel very cohesive. There isn't like a snow level and a swamp level and, the forest level and the temple level and the castle level. They're all there, but they don't feel like they're separate. They don't feel like they're part of a different world. It all feels like it's part of the same world. The sanctuary system, where you go to a sanctuary, and every time you enter a sanctuary, you can light your candle, and then you have all these different NPCs that you can assign. You can customize your sanctuary so that you have different NPCs in each sanctuary. So I eventually knew, all right, over here I have, the guy that sells me the potions, and then I have the armor, the guy the blacksmith, and then so I'm good with that. And then in this other sanctuary, I'm gonna want the little mercenary that I can hire to assist me, or I'm gonna want I don't know, the guy that sells me upgrades and stuff. You customize them in a way that makes it feel like, there's just so much customization in that game from top to bottom, from the way you customize the sanctuaries, but also the way you can customize your character. The skill tree is enormous. And on my New Game Plus, I had already maxed out my magic skill tree. So it was like, all right, I'll just go and max out another branch of the skill tree. And, but there's so many branches, and there's so many things you can do with each, and it's wonderful. I love that game so much. Uncharted 4 would have been my number 2, but I went back and revisited both of those games recently, and I have to say, Salt and Sanctuary just beats it out for me. So
yeah, it's a pretty complex game for being. When you just look at it as a 2D side scroller, it seems for $20, it seems like it's going to be something pretty basic. But the skill trees and the customization that you just talked about, I really enjoyed that game myself, actually. Well, I haven't played a lot of games, finished a lot of games this year, so I guess as far as my honorable mention goes, I am going to have to go with, I'm still not entirely sure. Boy, this is tough.
So what are your 2 choices?
Well, I have a few choices. So, I really want to mention Pokemon Go, Firewatch. So I'm kind of going back and forth between those two. But I guess if I had to give it to one, it'd be Pokemon Go, just because I've invested so much time, effort, money into it.
That was a real sensation this year.
It still is. It hasn't really ended.
Yeah.
For some people, clearly the big push from July has kind of died down.
Yeah.
I still play it daily.
Whenever I go out on a walk, I usually open it up and just have it on.
Yeah, and I don't really know what can be said about it. It's just a mobile app, really, that takes over your everyday life if you let it. It's...
But it is a game. There is a game there.
No, there's certainly a game there. I sincerely want to catch them all, hatch them all. I strive to do that.
How close are you?
Yeah.
Well, so when they did the last update, it updated the Pokédex to 239, but apparently there's only 150 that you can actually get right now, and I have 139, so I guess I'm 11 away.
Whoa, dang. What's your strongest Pokemon?
The strongest one that I possess?
Yeah.
Probably a Snorlax. It's around 2,700 CP.
Dang.
I'd have to...
I don't know what that means, but that's awesome.
That's a big number.
And go in and look at it to see.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, I'm at the point where I really don't even care if it is under 2,000 CP, other than to evolve it and get experience points, But I can go to a gym and have 30 different 2,000 plus CP Pokemon to battle with, so that's cool.
Do people still fight over the gyms?
Oh
where
yeah,
you are?
yeah. And it's weird
Yeah?
because I'll see like different people all the time, like people that like I'm not sure how, but like there's probably I live in a very small town, so this is going to sound like a low number, but there's probably like 12 to 15 of us that do that, right?
That's still a pretty good
On
number.
different teams.
Yeah.
But every now and then there'll be like some weird person you've never seen before that's like level 32 or pretty high level that just shows up, and I don't know if they're like college kids coming from out of town or people hacking or what. But yeah. No, gym battles are kind of a big deal here.
What team are you on? I don't think I've ever asked you
I'm
that.
on Team Mystic, which
Not Slytherin?
huh? Lutheran? Yeah,
Slytherin?
Lutheran. What's that got to do with it?
I'm Team Valor.
Yeah, and Valor is by far the most. They yeah, like
We're tenacious.
yeah. Instinct shows up once in a while, and it's like what? But yeah,
Instinct is like the idiot child of the three teams.
yeah. So
I said it. Come at me, internet.
if I happen to take over a gym, it doesn't usually take Valor long to show up and knock me out. But usually, like, we all do this. Like, when we do it, because there's only 3 gyms in town, we pretty much just do them all because they're within a mile of each other, right?
Yeah.
So we do them all real quick and kind of move on. But, yeah, I've learned
Does
a lot
Dylan
about
play it too?
Pokemon. Huh?
Does
No.
Dylan play it too?
I don't
No?
know that any of the younger people still play it. I think mostly the people that play it are old dudes like me. Around here, anyway.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is kind of...
That is interesting.
Well, to be honest, at this point, to play it, it does cost money, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's not 7,000 Pokestops where we can get everything for free. And even if there were, you can't get, like, incense and lucky eggs and incubators at Pokestops. Although you could for the last week, but that's over now. So, yeah, I mean, you do have to spend money to continue to play it, which sadly I have. I've spent a lot of money on this game. I don't even
You fell into their trap.
I really don't even want to know how much I've spent on this game. Probably a good $500.
Dang.
Yeah. But
Well, like, that's kind of the genius part of Pokemon Go, is that it's less about the game and more about how it forces you into social situations and, like, changes your behavior and, like, where you're going. Like, you go to the Pokestop instead of... You go out of your way to go to the Pokestop.
yeah.
Instead of going directly where you would otherwise go.
Yeah, instead of driving 3 blocks to the store, you walk 3 blocks to the store, and then you walk another 9 blocks to hit up the Pokestops around it.
Yeah, and I think that more than anything is a real testament to how powerful games can be. Because, like,
Yeah.
that's a lot more work for just a little bit of gaming, like, reward, I guess. And I remember earlier this year, like, a couple thousand people showed up to a local Pokemon walk event. Like, there was just an event at the local park to benefit Extra Life, and a couple thousand people showed up. So many people showed up that when we wanted to have a follow-up event, the park was like, well, no. Don't do that.
Yeah.
There were way too many people last time.
Yeah, we're not sure we can handle that. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess the one word to describe it is phenomenon. It just
Yeah.
really, really was, and, it's clearly doesn't have the same impact it had in July, like I said, but for some of us it does.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how it does going forward, and also what developer Niantic, I think they're called.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what they do with this, because I was gonna have Pokemon Go as like one of my disappointments of 2016, but I don't think it. I ended up going against that because it didn't really disappoint me. It was it surprised me, and I think that there are so many more things you could do with a system, like with that underlying system. Like, there are so many things you could add on top of that, like actual Pokemon battles. Like,
Well, and supposedly that's coming.
right,
Yeah.
right. They could make it into an actual real world Pokemon game
Yeah.
if they wanted to.
Well, I think,
And that's exciting to me. I would play the crap out of a game like that.
and I kind of think that's where they're actually trying to go with it. And part of me doesn't understand why they didn't just do that from the beginning, and part of me thinks, well, maybe they just didn't want to blow their entire quote unquote wad right away. You know, that's why they only had
Their wad of cash.
Yes,
Their wad of cash.
Exactly. This is PG. But yeah, supposedly in the future there's going to be trading involved, battles with your friends, battling Pokemon in real time, things like that. And that's actually what I thought this game was when I first downloaded it. Because
that's why I was gonna have it in my disappointments, because there are so many things that seem like they should have just been there from the beginning, but
Seemed natural.
yeah.
But, you know, I think that I do have gripes about the game, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Like, I think that it is kind of a money chaser. I think they are kind of biding their time on some of these things to just get more money. It seems that when I'm really low on Pokeballs, that's when all the Pokemon escape. I mean, honestly, it really does. I do have some gripes, but the impact it's had on me throughout the year kind of has to just...
Speaks for itself.
Yeah, it does. And I do want to also kind of mention Firewatch, because I think we all enjoyed that game. What? Yes, I'm cheating.
I didn't play Firewatch.
Oh, I thought you said you kind of want to bitch at Firewatch.
Mention Firewatch.
Okay, yeah.
Jack, you never
Good.
did play it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, Jack.
There were too many good games this year. I didn't get around to playing them all.
And Firewatch is one of the best.
Yeah, so...
It's my second.
Yeah.
It's my third runner-up. My third runner-up.
It's one of the few games I finished this year. I looked back and I finished Michonne, which I actually really enjoyed as well, but I'm always talking about The Walking Dead, so I decided to not do that this year. Yeah, Firewatch was a game that I thought I wouldn't really like, but I really did enjoy it. There's not much to it. I mean, it's more of a graphic novel than a game, I suppose.
It's just a fantastic story.
Yeah, it is.
I loved it.
It's cool.
I loved it.
So I don't really want to go into detail about it, but I just kind of wanted to mention it.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
All
I mean,
right.
as far as I understand, the main thing Firewatch has going on for it is the story, so maybe one day we'll have a Firewatch episode.
It's interesting because I've seen some people that have played it lately really being negative about it. Like they just got around to playing it. So I kind of wonder if I
a
was
lot of people
caught up
were
in the
negative
hype.
about that ending.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people just have a reaction to games that focus more on story, like Firewatch or Gone Home.
Well, I was going to say,
Like,
it's kind
we
of
had
like,
that reaction to Gone Home.
yeah, it's like the Gone Home syndrome is what I called it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we had some negative initial reactions to Gone Home, and I think over time...
that didn't happen,
Over
did it?
time, we kind of overcame that and realized it was actually pretty unique and groundbreaking.
Yeah, that was one of the craziest turnarounds in 2016, with the exception of Trump becoming president, was us all three voting yes for Gone Home being a best game.
Because the funny thing was that none of us had even talked about it going into it.
No.
We didn't know how each of us were feeling about it. And then we all just come in and we each had done a 180 on that game.
I thought, man, these guys are going to hate me by the end of this episode.
I think we all thought that.
I know. That's what makes it hilarious.
Yeah, good times, good times.
Yeah.
All right, so...
Jack, what's your winner? What's your game of the year?
El numero uno.
My number one pick for Game of the Year, similar to something like Firewatch, where it is a lot of what would maybe traditionally be considered walking simulator type stuff, I'm nominating That Dragon Cancer.
Wait, was that this year?
That
Yeah.
was.
God damn it. Seriously?
Yeah. Yep. I think it was January, maybe February came out.
Okay.
Shoot.
But
I totally thought you were going to say Overwatch.
No. I love Overwatch. I love me some Overwatch. I think it's one of the finest first-person shooters since since Team Fortress 2, which we did an episode on that with Jack Packard from Red Letter Media. You can go over and listen to that. But I love Overwatch, but I had to give it to the game that impacted me the most just personally and made me feel the most things and was... I feel really groundbreaking in a number of ways. Just in its honest look at grief and the grieving process and kind of pulling back the curtain and revealing that there's more inside of tragedies than just unrelenting sadness. There's moments of joy and moments of happiness and appreciation and beauty and all this good stuff, even in the midst of one of the most horrible things you can imagine someone going through. And the honesty with which the developers tackled the subject, and for those of you who don't know, That Dragon Cancer is about it's about a family going through the process of losing their son to a terminal illness.
Very young son.
It's autobiographical, isn't it?
Yeah, it is autobiographical. Like the main developer behind That Dragon Cancer was literally going through losing his son as he was making the game. Like, he turned to making the game as a way of coping with this tragedy and as a way of also memorializing and capturing the essence of his son. And so it's really fascinating and interesting. And when I said when I started talking about it that it's kind of a walking simulator, it is, but also there's a lot of variety in that. Like, it walks the line between digital art installation and with really kind of trippy visuals, and then also there are moments where you are walking around and just kind of looking at things in the environment. One moment that stands out, you can walk around the hospital wing that they're in at the moment, and you can look at all of the pictures on the walls, and there are cards strung up all over the hospital, and you can read each individual card, and inside there's a message from a family that supported That Dragon Cancer.
I literally read every one. Every single
me
one.
too.
And cried, for probably 3 hours doing it.
I mean, this is the kind of game that will rip you apart.
Oh, it'll tear you. Yeah, it'll.
And you can play it in one sitting, and I recommend playing it in one sitting because it's a game that's really hard to get back to if you stop. You can probably finish it in about 4 hours. Maybe less. Probably much less if you don't actually read every single card.
I can guarantee I won't play it in one sitting then. But yeah.
You can probably finish it in 2 hours.
Okay.
But if you don't read the cards, I don't know.
I plan on reading the cards.
Yeah.
If I can even play this game. To be honest, I'm struggling with it because stuff like that affects me a lot more than it would have before I had Quinn. So
yeah, that's I think that's a big shame. I think that the subject matter of the game puts a lot of people off from playing it, but
I'm not put off. I'm just afraid.
Well, yeah,
it makes
that's the same
people
thing.
Feel things, a lot of things.
Yeah, and it makes you feel good things, makes you feel bad things, and I think at the end of the day, it's the kind of game that it's a really rare kind of game that might actually make you a better person for having played it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And it makes you empathize with these people. It's just brutally honest with everything that's going on personally and just about life in general. And it also has the unique distinction of probably being the only game that tackles like Christianity and doesn't suck. Like most people are like, oh, a Christian game, that's probably like no Super Noah's Ark or like Dante's Inferno. Like, they're not great games, but this is a game that actually kind of taps into that perspective, and you can understand it and know where it's coming from. And it's not like super judgmental or preachy about it. It's just a part of who these people are and where they're turning to for comfort. I think that's something that everyone, regardless of religious affiliation, can get behind and understand.
It's Catholicism, but you should really play Everybody's Gone to the Rapture.
Oh, really?
I feel like that does a similar thing with religion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
I mean, one character is Catholic, but I don't know about the others. There are other characters that religion is a big part of their story, as they encounter the rapture, and it's great. I love that game, by the way. But that's last year, anyway.
Yeah. And so it's just a very profound, moving experience, and it's not, I'm not going to say it's like fun, but it's definitely the deepest experience I had with a game this year. And it's definitely the one that stands out to me the most. 'Cause like, I could play 1,000 games of Overwatch and have a pretty good time. And I'll remember Overwatch as being a pretty good time in general. But at the end of the day, this game, like, ripped my heart apart and put it back together, and that's the kind of thing you don't forget, ever. If you do play That Dragon Cancer, I would also recommend watching the documentary that was made as a companion piece for it, called Thank You for Playing. I was able to interview the directors of that movie you can actually listen to it on this podcast. It's an older episode. When I played That Dragon Cancer, I couldn't stop thinking of how on earth could you make a game like this while you're going through it at the same time?
Yeah.
It's so immediate. Like, you're making a game about your kid dying as your kid is dying. That's mind-boggling to me. And the documentary just answers that question. How does someone do this? How does this family function like this? And it's really interesting, and highly recommend it as a movie, and also just as something that helps you understand the game a little bit better.
Yeah, no, great pick. Great pick.
All right.
I feel kind of ashamed that I didn't realize it came out this year, honestly.
It's okay. It was like at the very beginning of the year.
That game had a pretty huge impact on me as well. It really did.
It's just a shame because, Daniel, you bring up the people not wanting to experience it.
Yeah.
And that did led to a lot of piracy of the game, because people weren't sure if they wanted to pay for it or not.
Oh, man.
And it also led to a lot of people just watching YouTube playthroughs of it.
Right.
Which, it probably makes the game more palatable, to be honest, because there is a level of removal in just watching something as opposed to interacting.
There's some disconnect there, yeah.
But I feel like that misses a big part of the point, even if you're getting the visuals and audio. So, don't watch a YouTube playthrough, buy the game, play it, and I guarantee you it will be worth it.
And some Kleenex.
Yes, maybe 2 boxes of Kleenex. Powerful stuff.
It does make me want to play it more, though. You kind of reminded me that I do want to play it. And it is on iOS, so I could just...
I didn't realize it was on iOS now. Yeah.
It is now, yeah.
Do you have like an
$5.
iPad or something?
No, I just have to play it on my phone.
Okay. I wonder what that would be like.
Right.
I don't know, we'll see.
Crying in public? I'm
right.
not sure. All right. No, that was an excellent pick, Jack, honestly. Daniel?
It's trivial in comparison to the real-life tragedy of That Dragon Cancer, but similar to Jack's justification for that game being his top pick, in that, like, I played games that I had more fun with this year than my top pick. Uncharted 4 and, Salt and Sanctuary, and Doom, and friggin' Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2, best first-person shooter campaign.
Man, you were listing off a bunch of games that I thought were were shoo-ins for your top pick, so I'm really curious.
Oh, man.
How do you not know?
So, I really liked all of those games, and I had a blast with them. But the game that I think is going to stick with me, and that I have not been able to stop thinking about since I started playing it, is and since I've finished it, is The Last Guardian. And that is my game of the
Do you
year.
think that's because it's fresh in your mind, maybe?
No.
Okay.
I thought about that because and I purposely replayed it, went back and started another playthrough. And I've played other games. I downloaded Thumper and Bound, and I want to play those, but I played a bunch of Thumper last night, and that game's really cool, but, like, I shut it off after, like, an hour, and I went back and played The Last Guardian.
You played Thumper, but you weren't completely Twitter-pated, so you went back to The Last Guardian?
Yes. So...
Good word.
There's... No, it's not. It's not because it's just fresh in my mind. But I did ask myself that question. But when I think about what I value from games, I value experiences like that stick with me, that have some substance, and just everything in The Last Guardian, it works towards the game's goal of bonding you with this creature. And I hate calling Trico an AI because as I was playing the game, I never once thought of him as an AI, or her as an AI, as an artificial intelligence, because I always thought of him as just my bird cat dog thing.
We thought when you said AI,
and,
you meant Allen Iverson.
Well, I mean, he's really good at blocking.
Well,
He's got some tight dreads.
Good point.
Yeah. No, Allen Iverson didn't really block. He was more of a point guard. Shooter. Yeah. Stealing.
Yeah.
That's what he was good at.
Tight dreads, though. You were on the mark there.
Very good defensively. Anyway, no. It's not just because it's fresh in my mind. It's because, like, everything... All right. So, without spoiling the game, I have to walk a fine rope here. Without spoiling a part towards the end of the game that is, in my opinion, the best moment in that game. It's when the whole thing came together for me. You read a lot of reviews and stuff. I've read a lot of reviews and watched a lot of reviews of The Last Guardian that said that Trico is very annoying and it's hard to get him to do what you want him to do. And it is, at the beginning. It is. And then as you go along, I think they script in moments and, like, milestones throughout the adventure where he starts to listen to you better. And he starts to get better at listening to your commands and knowing what you want. And towards the end, he basically knows what you want him to do before you even command him to do it. He sometimes waits. He has to kind of wait so that he knows you're ready. 'Cause sometimes you have to ride on his back and go with him if you need him to, like, jump a large gap or whatever. So he's scripted to wait for you, but he gets much better. And by the last, like, 4 hours, I never thought once about, like, crap, he's not doing what I need him to do. Like, it was always, he was right there, and he was reliable, and he was where I needed him to be, and he was doing what I needed him to do, which was a huge, like, leap from where we were when we started. And when we started the journey, he didn't even trust the boy completely. And the freaking amazing thing is that I'm talking about this bird dog thing as though it has its own personality and it has its own character. And it doesn't. It is an artificial intelligence, but I project all of these emotions on him because they are there. Like, it is presented
That's
that
a pretty
way
neat nuance
in the game.
Really. I mean, that it does.
Yeah, there's so much nuance in the game, and you get better at reading his facial expressions and his movements. Like, you know when he's upset, you know when he's like kind of excited, you know when he's about to jump somewhere, even if he's not like even, because he'll be looking at a spot and you know he's interested in that, and that gives you a clue as to where you need to go and what you need to do. So there's this moment late in the game where it all came together for me, where Trico is not sure he can do something, and he's kind of self-conscious about it, and they hint about that in a few sequences leading up to this moment, where they hint that Trico can do something, but doesn't have confidence that he actually can. And so you as the boy, you have to basically encourage him to do it. And you're doing this thing, and I'm being very vague. You're doing this thing, you're solving this puzzle. But the whole time I didn't really quite know what I was solving this puzzle for, what I was doing, where the end goal of this puzzle even was. And then I get to the end of it, and I'm just like running around in circles trying to figure out what the heck I'm supposed to be doing. And then I realized, a just freaking light bulb went off in my head. Oh my God, I just need to tell him to do this, and he's going to do it. And that's what this is. I was setting it up so that he could do what I need him to do. And he did it. And it was the best moment. I was so happy for him that he was able to do this thing that he didn't think he could do. And I was so happy that, like, I had solved that myself and I didn't look at a guide or anything. And the game doesn't ever hint at it in that moment anyway. It hints at your solution to other puzzles sometimes. But in that moment, I ran around for a good, 20 minutes, and the old man narrating never gave, any kind of, I told him to do this, and it just came to me. There's definitely visual guides that kind of, just the way certain objects in the environment are painted in that scene, you kind of figure out, okay, that's what we're doing. When I figured that out, I was just, oh my God, no longer am I just commanding this animal to do what I want him to do. I'm convincing a creature that he is powerful enough and strong enough to do this thing that he's not sure he's powerful and strong enough to do. And that was awesome. That was the moment where the whole game just came together for me. I loved that moment. I stood up and just was like, what? When I figured it out, Coley was in the room and I'm like, wait a second. I just need to tell him to do it. And my mind was blown. But there's many other moments in the game that are wonderful and really interesting story beats, really interesting story moments that are presented really well. And the puzzles are fun. Trico is just a blast to interact with. And if anything, I wish there were a few more areas where you could just interact with him freely and openly and just play. But man, the camera issues are there, and some of the way the boy controls is sometimes kind of annoying. But it never, like, none of that ever got in the way of my enjoyment of that game. It's going to stick with me.
Here's my most important question regarding that game. Is it Trico or Trico?
It is Trico, because the boy even yells it, and he goes, well, it's more like Tarico or something
joking.
like that.
The Eco-Ico thing.
Well, I'm just saying, Jack. Just saying. Eco, Trico.
But the boy doesn't have a name ever?
No.
Well, I mean,
Nope.
that's kind of a recurring thing.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think any of their main characters have been given actual names.
No.
Well, wasn't Eco's name Eco?
I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of still out there for debate.
Yeah, maybe not, I guess,
think
yeah.
people just assume that's his name,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, I kind of thought that game would have a pretty big impact. Jack, have you played it?
I haven't played it yet,
Yeah.
so
Well, good choice, Daniel. I'm really glad you
Thanks.
enjoyed that game because I know you were really looking forward to it.
I was.
You were also really looking forward to No Man's Sky, so there is that.
Oh, yeah. Like, I thought maybe I would be as disappointed in Last Guardian as I was in No Man's Sky. And don't get me wrong, I played 60 hours of No Man's Sky, but I've only played about 20 hours of The Last Guardian.
Is that about how long it takes to finish it?
It takes
for
about
you?
15. I'd say it took me about 13 to 15
Okay.
hours to finish it. It was maybe a little bit longer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
But the moments that made that game worth playing for me are way worth the moments that are a little bit frustrating and annoying.
So that means about 6 months of development for every hour of gameplay.
I mean, I think maybe from what it sounds like you're saying, maybe The Last Guardian is the best game to have come out that went through the longest development cycle.
Yeah, usually those games aren't
That's
that
fair.
great, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That certainly depends on who you ask. I think a lot of people really liked Final Fantasy 15.
Well, yeah,
I've seen
I guess.
a lot of people mention it.
Don't ask
Was that
Randy Pitchford.
longer? Was that longer than?
Yeah, that was first announced
Yeah?
in 2006.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. I thought, yeah, well, yeah, I guess that would be a year longer than The Last Guardian. Because I know they started working on Last Guardian right when Shadow of the Colossus came out, and I think that was 2007.
Did they announce it then, though?
Well, 2000...
No,
Shadow of the Colossus came out in 2005. They started working on it around that time, but
Yeah.
they didn't announce it until 2000.
Yeah, it was one of the very first PS3 E3s or press conferences that they... I mean, it was Final Fantasy Versus 13 at the time, but
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, 15's been in development for a very long time. I want to play both of those games very much, and at some point I
Yeah,
will.
I'd like to play Final Fantasy,
Maybe
actually.
maybe after you knock out Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have 6 weeks of freedom.
So, Jeremy, what would you say?
Yeah, what's your number one best game of 2016?
Well, after giving it a lot of consideration, I have decided The Last of Us Part 2 is my game of the year this year. Based solely on a
good
trailer
choice.
for a game that may come out in 2 years.
I mean, it's a real testament to how powerful that trailer is.
Yeah, I mean,
That it's already your game of the
that
year.
guitar solo.
It's great.
No, like,
A tattoo.
Jack, honestly, after you talking about that Dragon Cancer, I'd really like to change my mind, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stick with Uncharted 4.
Okay.
Clearly, I'm a huge Naughty Dog nerd. I love the Uncharted.
You're naughty for Naughty Dog.
I haven't actually finished the game, so that seems kind of...
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm on, like, chapter 16. I think I have, like, an hour left. I just need to do it.
Have you gotten to the flashback yet?
Yeah, and,
The
like, a part...
Late
yeah,
flashback?
a part of me almost doesn't want to finish it because, like, I kind of know what's going to happen, right?
You're super close.
Yeah, I know. And as much as I've tried to not have it spoiled for me, obviously it has been to a degree.
Yeah.
But I am going to finish it probably on my next day off, which will probably be like in March or April.
Yeah, what puts it up so high for you? Like, what
Well,
We'll put it above
I haven't
Firewatch.
played very many games this year, so there's that.
Yeah.
B, I love Elena. I love Nate. I love Sully. And just kind of seeing all those characters very well written and developed one final time.
Is it going to be the last Uncharted? I know they've said...
Well, there's another Uncharted coming out, but so far what
Okay.
they've showed, it features Chloe and what's her name? Mary.
The ladies from the second one?
Well,
Yeah.
no,
What is her name?
the other girl is from the fourth one. So
Oh, okay.
Marlene, is that it?
No, nope, that's The Last of Us. You're just thinking of the black lady from The Last of Us. I'm looking it up. Yeah.
Like just the very beginning opening sequence of that game where Nate's in the attic or the basement, whatever it was, and like looking at all of his stuff, and he's got his little like pong ball shooter thing, and you can shoot the targets with that. Then you go upstairs and you see your wife, Elena, and you play Crash Bandicoot. Like that's like that whole sequence to me was just amazing. If you're a huge fan of the series, that is. And obviously I am.
Nadine,
thank you. And then, like, you know, he gets called off in true Nate fashion and lies. And Elena kind of has to come to the... Like, she's not in the game a whole lot, but when she's there, it's extremely impactful.
yeah.
And the introduction of his brother, Tom... Did I just say Tommy?
Not his name's Tommy.
I am totally in the Last of Us mode. Holy crap.
Elena comes back into the game a bit more
Does
after
she?
where you are
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, and I'll get there.
Yeah.
You know, you learn a little more history of Nathan. It's just cool to me. And it's a beautifully stunning game, obviously, like as most Naughty Dog games are.
Technically, it's the best looking game I think
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
And storytelling, I think, is great. I think it's amazing. I think that it really manages those heartwarming and serene moments with the, the fast-paced action type stuff. And you can play through a lot more of the fast-paced action type stuff as opposed to just seeing it in cutscenes or having quick time events. One of the things that stands out to me from this game is driving around in the Jeep and like the conversations that Sully and what's Nate's brother's name? Come on, give me a hand here. Sam, yes. That Sully and Sam would have like just while you're driving around, and like you could leave the Jeep and come back and they would carry on the conversation like you didn't miss a thing. And of course it has pretty decent platforming and awesome set piece moments and exploring, which is probably going to get me every time. I mean, I do love to explore.
Yep.
This is, why a 20-hour game takes me 40 hours to complete, at least.
It opens up a bit, like, in those moments, and I think it's just enough. I think they find a good balance between, like, linear and open.
Yeah. And, kind of and also the history aspect of it. We've talked about this on the show before. I really, really learned a lot from this game about something that I really didn't know much about. And most of it's pretty historically,
I ended
most
up
of it's pretty
Googling
historically
Henry
accurate.
Avery.
Like these are things Henry Avery, like, not maybe the tiny small things, but the bigger picture are things that were really all a part of his life and death. And I, for one, appreciate that.
The Gunsway heist and all that. Like, that actually
I don't know
happened.
that he had all those hidden tombs and puzzles and paintings that had mysterious marks on them and whatnot.
I'm not sure the secret pirate society.
But Henry Avery
existed either. But
Avery certainly did, and the basics of his backstory were accurate and legit, and I appreciate that. So, Uncharted 4 is my game of the year.
All right.
Yeah.
Some pretty solid picks this year.
Wow, 2016 was a good year for games.
Yeah,
That
terrible year for
was.
pretty much anything else, but good year for games.
And for Extra Life.
And for
Raised
Yeah.
record amounts of
9
money
million.
this year.
Yep. So let's look at the positives from 2016 going into 2017, I suppose. That's the
Great.
moral of this story.
Great games and more money for kids.
Yeah, sick kids.
I mean, hopefully not more sick kids.
No. More money for fewer sick kids, right?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
That's what we want. Yes. All right, fellas. Well,
All right.
Yeah.
So that was episode 49 of the Best Games period. Next week's is episode 50.
What?
Holy cannoli.
Do we need to do something special for that?
No.
No?
Not till we reach like 100.
Okay.
I think
wait,
when we reach
wait, didn't we say we were gonna maybe revisit like an episode that we've done, like the Best Games period, and like reevaluate how we feel about it?
Oh. Yeah, we did say that for 50.
Yeah, every 50 episodes.
yeah,
Oh, I just
All
got
right.
really excited.
that's the plan.
Okay, so wait. Do we want to reevaluate a specific game or each come with a game that we think deserves reevaluation?
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later.
We're going to reevaluate episode 49.
Just immediately.
All right. Sounds good. Jack, do you want to do the spiel on Extra Life or
Yeah.
or what? Okay, do it.
All right. So, Extra Life. It's a new year, new Extra Life. Same Extra Life, really, but new year, new blank is just a thing that seems like people say. But guess what? You can sign up for Extra Life right now. You can head over to extra-life.org and you can learn more about what Extra Life is. Basically, we put on a 24-hour video game marathon, usually kind of in the fall, November-ish time of the year. And everyone who signs up can choose a Children's Miracle Network hospital that they want to support. And 100% of all the money they raise goes directly to that hospital to treat sick and injured kids, pays for their treatment, 100% of it goes to them, and none of it's skimmed off the top for administrative fees or anything like that. It's really, really fantastic. You know where the money is going. It's great. There's really no downside, and you can take it as far as you want with it. So, like, some people just participate in the 24-hour marathon in November. Other people, they're like, well, I'm going to have little events throughout the year. I'm going to raise money that way. Or some people can't go nuts and campaign all year. We even had some people in past years who were like, we're banding together and we're going to live stream for an entire week straight to raise money for Extra Life. What you do is really up to you, and Extra Life just gives you the tools and community to better do that stuff. So head over to extra-life.org to sign up or learn more. And if you want to get more involved in the community end of things, you can head over to community.extra-life.org. And there you can connect with people in the Extra Life community. You can find out more about Extra Life guilds, which are just groups of motivated people across the country who get together and figure out how to spread the word about Extra Life a little bit better. And on top of that, when you're over on the Community Hub, you can also check out a number of interesting articles about games and news, features, and this very podcast. So, head over there, check it out, get more involved in the Extra Life community. We love to have you.
All right. So as Jack said, you can find this episode 49, on community.extra-life.org. We also post it on Game Informer, and if you follow us on Twitter at bestgamesperiod, post it on there every Monday. It goes up on our hosting site, Libsyn, as well as SoundCloud and iTunes. If you haven't given us a review on iTunes, we would love one. That would help us out a lot so that we could become more visible on iTunes, and that'd be great. We could have more listeners. And last month was a record-breaking month for us, so we are only going up, and we really appreciate all of you who listened to us for the last year. and stuck with us through so much stuff. Just stuff that we talked about. Marshmallows and random things like that. Anyway, Jack,
Daniel,
Jeremy,
Hershey.
woof,
Desi.
meow.
All right, Quinn. My daughter's a cat now. Thank you both for joining me tonight for episode 49 of the Best Games Period. And thank you, good listeners, for joining us. We will be back next week with something. We're not sure exactly what we're going to be discussing yet, but you will find out in a week. All right, till then, Happy New Year, and we will see you all on the flippity-a-dippity. This is best games period, Jack.
I'm just, but it's the 2016
I just
episode.
don't want our Game of the Year episode to be all negative about these games.
Then Mighty Number 9 sucked, okay?
Come on, Jack.
Mighty Number 9 sucked.
Everybody was disappointed in Mighty Number 9.
Yep.